Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to another program in our series, Freethinking Forum. I'm Bill Weir, the host and producer, and I'm delighted to have with me Farji Shaheer.
Thank you for having me.
And Farji, where did life begin for Farji?
Well, I'm originally from Chicago. I was born in south side of Chicago in the Woodlawn area. My mom moved to the uptown area, and then my family kind of spread throughout the city. So I spent a lot of time in uptown. I also spent a lot of time in the Robert Taylor homes on the south side of Chicago. And I spent a lot of time near Cabrini Green, near North High School, where I went to high school for the first 2 years of my freshman and sophomore year. And then I kind of was running into a lot of trouble. So one thing about me was I always asked why. Instead of always running with the crowd or trying to join the crowd, I always wondered why things were the way they were. So instead of me getting out there and trying to be like everyone else, I wanted to set my own path. One thing that always struck an interest was mental health. So I had an aunt who suffered from schizophrenia, and she was also, chemically dependent and also alcohol dependent. Mm-hmm. And just living in that lifestyle kind of always made me wonder, well, what is it that makes a person behave in such manners? When I turned 16, I was going through a lot. It felt like it was forever, but it was just the beginning of my life. And at 16, I almost lost it. So I had to rethink the plan, the strategy. I had to change my story in order for me to be able to make it to the next phase of life. So I left Chicago and I moved to Minnesota when I was 16, fresh out of Lincoln's Challenge Academy, which was a boot camp out in Rantoul, Illinois. They gave me all the skills that I needed to become a more disciplined and productive citizen. Once I graduated and moved to Minnesota, I obtained my first job, and I kind of just been growing ever since. My first job was working at a Hopkins Care Center inside the dietary department. Now before that job, there was a lot of chaos, a lot of stuff that I really, it's dear to me, and maybe one day we can disclose it, but there was a lot of chaos and a lot of violence and a lot of gang activity, a lot of burglaries, a lot of firearm possessions, a lot of stolen cars, a lot of things that I'm really not happy about in my past, and kind of it gave me the drive to try to do something different, to step away from the normal and actually become the individual that I am today. And I look forward to becoming an even stronger individual just based on the background that I have with 20 years of being inside of Hennepin County Medical Center, now known as Hennepin Health. Started off in dietary and worked my way up. So for all the young men out there that feel like there's no position for you in life, you just gotta give it a shot. I was able to obtain a position inside of the hospital, and I slowly worked my way up to now I am the director and manager of the Next Step program, which is a hospital-based violence intervention program.
That is great.
Yeah, it was a heck of a journey.
Yeah, you've had a challenging time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I know some of those places in Chicago because I've lived there for 4 years.
Oh yeah.
And wow, it is good to have you here working with the Hennepin
Health. Yeah,
Health
they just changed the name. They're always changing stuff around.
So, what is this Next Step program?
Well, the Next Step program is a hospital-based violence intervention program. It is a program that was started out at Hennepin County Medical Center in a collaboration with Minneapolis Health Department, Hennepin County Medical Center, and also the Office of Justice Programs. It was an initiative to kind of figure out what we could do to solve and kind of curb gun violence and some of the other penetrating violence that occurs in the inner city. While I was growing up, like how I kind of mentioned in the beginning, my childhood was a little rough. So this has been over 30 years of watching people lose their lives over things that, really didn't amount to them having to lose their life behind. So that question's always been on my mind. How do we address violence? How do we address gun violence? And how do we deal with the trauma that the communities feel And Next Up was one of those solutions. We were able to develop a program inside of the hospital that dealt with individuals who were recently shot or stabbed or assaulted. We make contact with them inside of the emergency room, and then we follow them throughout the time that they're inside of the hospital. And we build relationships with their families. So, when you get hurt and go into the hospital due to these nature of the wounds, a lot of the times the patient is considered no info. So it creates a little bit of confusion for those that are trying to visit somebody that they know is inside of the hospital.
No info meaning they won't give out any?
No, they won't give out any information. So if I was to be hurt or something was to happen to me, in the first hour or two, it would be considered a no info or a confidential patient until they have some more information in regards to whether the suspect was caught or if it was a self-inflicted wound. So it's a buffer period for the hospital to kind of see who's there for the patient's well-being and see who's there, and to make sure that no one else who doesn't need to know that that patient is there presents and is able to do any more harm.
So it's protective.
It's protective.
But it's also gets in the way.
It gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets a little rough, but for the most part, we respect the fact that the hospital doesn't want anyone to visit a patient during those vital hours.
Yes.
Because
that
we don't
is
know.
Important.
Yes, indeed.
So how did you take part in getting this started?
So it was a conversation that was started with the Hennepin County security guards back in 2016. And during that time—
only a couple of years ago?
Only a couple of years. So it's still fresh. We still got our wheels on the ground, and we're slowly taking off. It was a lot of work that I put into this, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, sleepless nights, and like long days, 16-hour days. Sometimes I would stay up for 24 hours just to kind of make sure that the community stayed safe. And for the first 2 years, it was just about showing validity, also developing the notoriety for the program, and also building those bonds within the community so that individuals began to trust and work with us inside of the hospital. So it was a lot of work. And over the last 2 years, we actually expanded from Hennepin Healthcare to also the North Memorial. So
good.
Now there's 2 hospitals that are involved in this, and we're looking to speak to the folks at Regions. It's only right that we make a full circle at all the level 1 trauma centers, just to assure that individuals who are impacted by these forms of violence have the support that they need in order to actually heal properly.
Yes.
Yes. It's pretty deep.
I like your ideas there. And is there any more you want to tell us about why Next Step was started, or have we covered it?
Well, Next Step is an initiative to slow some of the violence down. The main reason why it was started was because there was a national average that if a person is inflicted by some form of penetrating wound, the chances of them being admitted into the hospital are up to about 40% within the first 2 to 5 years after their discharge. Inside of Hennepin County, we were able to reduce that percentage down to 3%.
Wow.
So in the 2 years that we've been existent, only 3 people have returned to the hospital with the same or similar wound, when as predicted before we started, it was more around 40%. So that was why
that
we
is
started.
Successful.
Yes, that is why we're here. We are here to reduce retaliation and to reduce recidivism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You were telling me earlier about some situation where there was the danger of retaliation by a number of people.
Yes.
And after one gun is shot, a whole bunch of guns come out.
Yeah, I kind of look at guns like magnets. So a lot of people view them as a tool that they can use to, protect themselves. But the one thing about a gun is that if you're in a community and everybody knows that you carry a gun, then every time they see you, they're going to think that you have a gun. So if they have a problem with anything regarding you, they're always going to bring a gun to the table because they know you have one already. So it attracts other individuals that carry guns, or other individuals who may be afraid of a person who carries a gun, and they bring a gun just to protect themselves. And it's based off of like paranoia and fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fear.
I've seen that, yeah. In Chicago and Minneapolis,
Yes, yes.
St. Paul.
St. Paul as well. Yep.
So, but how do you form bonds then with individuals you don't know?
That's the tricky part. That is the tricky part. Forming those bonds with people that I do not know can be hard. For one, you have to know the language. You have to walk the walk. You have to be able to expose some of yourself so that someone feels somewhat trusting of your intentions. You have to be transparent, and you have to be genuine. Inside Hennepin Healthcare or Hennepin County Medical Center, we have a gentleman by the name of Syl Jones who developed this form of narrative medicine. And narrative medicine is like trading a story for a story. So before we met, we didn't know nothing about each other, but we were able to exchange a little bit about ourselves to one another until we found that common ground. That's pretty much what we do with all our participants. We speak to them and we talk to them and we divulge bits of our lives in an attempt to find a common ground to where we can actually begin to develop a trusting conversation and a trusting bond that not only lasts while the patient's inside the hospital, but also in the community as well. Yep.
Wow, that I've never heard of narrative
medicine. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's old. It goes way back.
Well, I'm sure, yeah. So, but it's now sort of being formalized.
Yes.
In what you're doing.
Yes.
And what Syl Jones found to be effective.
Yes, indeed. And that tool has been effective countless times. We've been able to utilize narrative medicine to develop relationships with individuals who are antisocial, individuals who never trusted their parents. And it works so to the point to where if you're talking to somebody, they feel comfortable enough to call on you when there's a moment of crisis. So I've had individuals actually give me their firearms because they didn't want to use the firearm to hurt someone else. They'll call me. Very important, because nowadays with the magazines and all the high power velocity rounds and things like that, a young man can carry a firearm that holds up to 30 shells. And a young man who is upset and emotional and willing to hurt someone that has nothing to lose could possibly hurt 30 people with that one firearm. So to be able to have someone call me and say, hey, I'm in a scuffle, I don't want to hurt anybody, can I meet you and turn my gun into you, is a remarkable feeling. It lets me know that the work that is done is actually working.
You actually are intervening in violence.
Yes, yes.
And with the collaboration of one of the people who knows you through narrative medicine.
Through narrative medicine. I've seen it open people up. Some of the individuals that I work with, some of the individuals that I see inside the hospital and in the community are looking for someone who is just willing to listen to them. It's kind of like going to a doctor with a headache, and you go into the doctor and you say, doc, I got a headache. And he says, oh, well, I'm just going to prescribe you a few Advil. But he doesn't ask what caused the headache. So we'll give you the medicine and then you'll go home.
That's not enough.
That's not enough. We don't know what caused your headache. So if we send you back home with some medicine, 9 times out of 10, you'll probably end up with the same headache because we didn't address the reasoning for you actually having that headache. And with narrative medicine, we are able to address it a little deeper. We're not just here to see you get stitched up. We're not here to give you medications and say, all right, you're healed, time to go. It's no, what's going on in your life right now that has you feeling like you're unsafe or has you at the risk that you are at, and do they know that risk? Big questions. So,
well, are we ready to talk about the vision you have and others have for the Next Step?
The Next Step program is expanding. The vision for Next Step is to eventually get so many people involved with this positive cancer that we actually go victim free.
Wow.
for the summer is my hope. My vision is that we are able to work collaboratively with the entities inside of the city and state to where these environments that have all these gunshot wounds and gunshot victims can actually go through periods of time without violence. Yeah, that's the vision for next
Some
step.
of us are familiar with accident-free zones where they're trying to reduce the accidents in
Yes.
that strip of highway
Yes.
to zero.
Yes.
And you're doing it for a whole neighborhood.
For a whole neighborhood. And we've actually accomplished
And several at one time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We actually accomplished that goal in the area of 26th and Cedar. This summer it was extremely chaotic. There were a lot of young men that were violently assaulted. And with the help of narrative medicine, we were able to develop bonds with these individuals to where they have actually went almost 2 months without someone being shot or stabbed.
Great.
And 2 months might not seem like a lot of time, but it's an enormous amount of time when you have so many young people who are bottled up with so much emotion and anger, and with access to firearms. So 2 months is beautiful. Now, if we can continue it for another 2 months, that would be even better. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Are there next steps that you could outline for that neighborhood?
Just more community involvement. Getting a lot of the individuals inside of the community to understand the value of their community. That's the hardest part, is being able to explain to somebody that even though they've been through so much in their life, that they still have value in the areas in which they're from. Value enough to where they're not immediately aggressive and wanting to respond to others in violent ways. You know, responsible enough to control their emotions to where they're not outside trying to hurt each other, not outside trying to indulge in substances to numb their pain or historical trauma. It gets real deep. It gets real deep. Yeah.
And it suggests you must have some real grasp of the mental health problems and the way to speak that language.
Yes. Yes.
To intervene.
Yes. Coming from the environment that I've come from, living the lifestyle that I lived for so many years allowed me to be able to communicate with individuals who are experiencing some of the same forms of trauma that I experienced in my past, in my life. So understanding those forms of trauma and then being able to address it to individuals who are going through it right now actively, they are able to grasp onto the concept and see some of the progression. Because what happened in the past is the positive male role models are taken out of the community. And then if you put a positive role model into the community, there are so many individuals that are waiting for that person to show face.
Yeah.
And then I was that face.
Good.
Yeah, I was that face.
That's important.
Yeah, so like when most people were getting shot in these communities and everybody's running away from it, I was running right to it. I was going to check on the individuals who were dealing with the gun violence and dealing with losing their loved ones at that moment.
You're a special kind of fireman.
Yes, put out the fires. Yep, control the fire so that it doesn't spread to the next neighborhood. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
And from what you say, I beginning to believe that maybe the work being done to solve gun violence will reduce violence in the Twin Cities.
Yes, it is. Yes, it will.
Maybe the whole state.
I would love it. In fact, that's one of my goal plans too, is to actually drift out and make sure that we get into St. Cloud, make sure that we get to Duluth. I've been out to Faribault. I'm trying to make sure that we have the whole concept under wraps throughout the whole states to where, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to prevent all crime, but we can prevent some of the crime, that involves individuals who are, just outside with nothing to do but hurt each other.
Well, next time I go to Buffalo, in Wright County, I invite you to come along, maybe.
I would love it. I would love it.
And has the community accepted the next step, do you think?
I believe the community has accepted Next Step. The one thing about Next Step is I really don't want people to know me, It's like one of those, I don't really know the word for it, but it's like you want people to be aware of what you do, but you would rather they didn't. So
Yeah.
I'm glad people know about the program, but I would rather that they didn't know about it, because that's,
Maybe an undercover fireman.
yes, an undercover fireman. Because what happens is, if somebody knows about the Next Step program, that means that they have someone in their family that's been affected by some form of violence. So it's like a good and a bad thing.
Well, the word is spreading.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes, it
In my
is.
church and a lot more places probably.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So that means that the job is being done.
So I think a lot of folks were really impressed by your presentation that Sunday morning. And
Thank
my earlier thought was, why did you choose the line of work you're currently in? And it seems you have talents
Yes.
that no one else seems to have developed yet, but you're helping them develop it.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And my main reason for just getting into this work is because I got tired of seeing my community look the way that it did. I got tired of the same old same. It's not normal for a person to be shot on their way to the store. It's not normal for childhood friends to be murdered on church steps. Like, no part of that life is normal. And my biggest thing is, like, if we can understand what's going on with soldiers who come back and forth from Iraq, then we should be able to understand what's going on with the kids inside of the inner city. This is a form of post-traumatic stress, except it's not post, it's more present. So it's constantly being ongoing, never having a chance to really heal, never having a real chance to deal with the situation, because there's another one. And then there's another situation, and it just keeps continuing, that you never have that time to really heal.
So if we find a way to increase that time to heal,
Yes.
maybe they can choose a better way.
They can choose a better way. My biggest thing is, like, if a person is shot, yeah, we want them to be discharged to home, but if home is not a safe place, then that might not be the area that that person needs to be discharged to.
And you go with them to their homes.
I go to their homes. I knock on their doors. I meet their mothers. I meet their fathers. I meet their aunts, their brothers. And that's the positive cancer. Because if we can start...
You say positive cancer. I'm used to using cancer a different way.
in a negative term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got this habit.
What is positive cancer?
Well, it's the flip on the cancer. So we take words and we flip them sometimes. Like,
Good.
we say things like, that's dope. And some people might say, oh, well, that's dope. Well, how is that dope? Like, dope is bad. But when you flip the language, it actually means something good. Dope means that was nice, that was fresh, that was innovative, that was dope.
Well,
Yeah.
it can get confusing.
It does get confusing,
Yeah.
but we've always been able to kind of take negative words and put a positive twist on them. So with cancer, cancer, starts in one cell, it grows to a next cell, and then next thing you know, you got big, large cancerous tumors throughout your body of multiple cells.
Well, yeah, it might grow for a long time in one place,
Yeah.
but then
It's
spread.
It spreads.
And
So with the positive cancer, we get that one patient that's laying in that hospital bed, might be going through a whole lot. He or she will have visitors that come into that room. Those visitors are listening just as much as that patient. So if I am giving a patient a dose of narrative medicine and something that they can grasp onto, then everyone in that room is also listening at the same time. So with that one patient, I can affect over 10 people. And that
Yes.
positive cancer can spread from there, because those 10 people leave the hospital and they share it with 10 more people. And then they share it with 10 more people. And then next thing you know, you got 100 people who all have the same cause.
yeah, well, we've got about 4 minutes left, and there's so many more questions.
Yeah, it's perfectly okay.
Well, we'll have to come back someday.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so.
But I think a lot of people have questions of why are some communities so violent? They don't see it right at home.
No, and that's the tricky part, because that's a battle of perception, right? So somebody who's on the outside looking in might say, oh my God, these guys are violent. Every time you turn around, they're killing each other, they're gangbanging, they're selling drugs. But that's all a matter of perception. if you were able to actually get into some of these communities, a person could realize that these communities are trying to thrive. It's just too many systemic, historical factors that have been able to keep the communities down. And unfortunately, some of the historical trauma that has been inflicted by not having parents in the house, not being able to have the father in the house, you know, social workers used to come visit, and if mom had a man in the house, mom couldn't receive benefits. This is where it all kind of started. So by not having men in the house, a lot of these young men and young ladies, they turn to the streets to be raised by the streets. And all of them aren't bad. They have kids that actually go to school to become, you know, engineers. We have kids that become Marines and kids that become bankers, but there aren't enough of them to be viewed as a whole. So the negative aspects of our community are viewed more than the positive.
They're more visible.
They're more visible.
Yeah,
So
and once the guy has a suit on and tie,
he's gone.
yeah, you don't recognize him as coming out of that community.
Out of that community. And that's the part where we have to kind of, that is why I still stay in the community that I'm in now, is because I need young men and young women to see a positive person who looks like them, who dresses like them, but it does not engage in the same behavior. So it's okay to be part of your community, but you don't necessarily have to engage in some of the pessimistic behavior that has been haunting us for the last few years.
We got about 2 minutes left. Can you give us a lecture on what methods or strategies can be used to curb violence?
I sure can. The first thing you want to do is you want to get involved with your community. You want to know the individuals that live on your block. There is nothing wrong with having a block patrol or a neighborhood watch. You have to be the agent of change for the community that you're living in. You cannot expect change to happen from anywhere else but from inside. It starts at home. Stop letting your children encourage the fighting. Stop with the Facebook fighting and the videotaping of fighting. Instead of videotaping someone to get hurt, won't you help that person? Won't you reach out to the community, become a community again? Utilize some of the skills that are given to you at birth to keep your community peaceful, because we all want the same things out of life. We all want to eat, we all want to work, and we all want to be safe. So if we can all agree to that, then we should be able to agree to stay violence free. Now there might be some robberies that occur from individuals that are feeling like they don't have what they need, and unfortunately we won't be able to change that. But if we are able to change some of the frivolous shootings, the shootings over $20, the shootings over a nightclub line, the shootings over a bottle of alcohol, the shootings over drugs, the shootings over, you know, gangbanging. If we can reduce those shootings, then our community can actually take that time to heal and begin to build.
Wow.
Yes.
That is a great way to.
Thank you.
That was a powerful sermon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I try.
Have you considered running for office?
It's on my mind.
Wow.
It's actually on my mind.
I think more people need to hear this.
Yes. I'm actually considering either running for one of the representatives or one of the city council positions.
Well, good.
And then slowly work my way up, hopefully be a mayor. I don't know where the world might take me, but my vision is to become as successful as possible.
And contribute as much to the community.
And give it right back to the
as
community.
you're already building.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. It was fun.